All right. So we're looking at G. And G could be, it could be the 1 in the key of G, or it could be the 5 in the key of C, or it could be the 4 in the key of D. So yeah, you got your G, and yeah, it could basically be in 3 different kind of places, and those are going to yield different colors. So the first one you can talk about is if we're playing off the 3rd of the chord with our Locrian thing, 2-octave position. That's got the F. Now that's going to yield an implied G7 or G dominant 7. There it is there. And if you can compare it to this little triad shape, and then so there you're playing the G that's kind of the 5 or the dominant in C, G7. And then you could think, oh yeah, I'm gonna play out of G. So there we're kind of using this Phrygian shape to play off the 3rd. And that yields the F sharp. So that's like major 7. So if you look at this little triad, so that's yeah, G major 7. You can play it however you want, or actually, you know, we did this, didn't we? You know, if you see, that's in there too, isn't it? So once you start thinking chords first, it definitely, you're kind of through the looking glass, because you can start to think chromatically. In other words, like, I've got a G, and now I can put into it a flat 7, or I could put in a major 7, and that's cool. And if you look at the rest of the notes, like a B and a C and a D, or I guess, well, I'll talk about C later, all the other notes are they're common. And the difference notes are the F and the F sharp, G7, G major 7. And then there's the one other option, which is playing out a D, and that's going to give you, and we were, you know, to play off of the 3rd yet again is, you know, you're in the key of D, and if you're playing off of B and D, that's your Aeolian mode. And that, when you're playing that kind of thing over G, it gives you this nice C sharp. And you've got the major 7th. So that gives you 2 colors. So if you can compare that to this triad, that gives you a major 7th, and then that sharp 4, which is also sometimes called sharp 11. I should mention that. So sometimes you hear it called sharp 4 or sharp 11, and both of them are good ways to call it. I think sharp 11 implies that there's already a major 7th in the chord, so it's kind of 4 beyond the 7th, 4 plus 7 is sharp, 11. So anyway, that's a really nice color. Ooh, you can get that. Nice. And but you could also, if you're just going to think sharp 4, you could even just play off a sharp 4. Like have that be a... like... Do. Oh, there's that... That John Lennon melody. So that's your 3 choices, like you're thinking, if you got a G, it's like G dominant 7, F sharp, G major 7, G dominant 7, F natural, sorry, G major 7, F sharp, and then G major 7, sharp 11 or sharp 4. And all the other notes are the same, and you're just choosing those 3 different colors, and that's the game. And there are some other options in there, like we were talking. Oh, anyway, before I get into that, it's like, so now if you just look at it off the root, it's like you could think of it as playing G mixo, which is kind of how people normally think. But I say it doesn't really matter because these are like common to all 3 of those things. So the idea that I want you to really digest is that, okay, say we're playing off the 3rd and it's B Locrian, B, and then B Phrygian for that F sharp, and then B Aeolian for those. You could think that way, but once you get those notes in your muscle memory, you can just start thinking that you can see that those 3 things can be just one thing. And you just select what kind of 7th and what kind of 4 you want. 7 and 4, that's your tritone. So you're thinking about selecting tritone, and or you can just think what color, if I want the F sharp color, I want the F color, like this is kind of like a metallic purple to me, but then this is more like some kind of deep plum, and then this is like bright red or something. So you could, I don't know, you could make those choices just purely on sound, which is, you want to kind of get to the point where you're throwing away. It's almost like we are using these modal names just to get to where we are now. It's communication. And once you're playing the right thing, it's like you don't have to communicate anything. And this is about really seeing your options. And there are a couple other options here too. And we'll get to those next week. Namely, well, can I have a C sharp and an F sharp and an F natural? Yeah, you totally can. So you can look at that if you want to look ahead. But anyway, what I was saying is, if you're looking off of this root of this chord, it's just the same G and A for all. For all 3 of the colors. So you just look at what's different, not what's the same. So you could play some exercises over this that are like then I'm going to select the dominant 7. And then I'm going to select the sharp 4 and the And yeah, just think of it as you're selecting those different colors, and the thing is, to me, I almost play off of the dominant seven mostly. Like I was saying, I think of this. Say if this is that Locrian, I will often. I do it all the time where I just go like that. Like I'm still thinking in this kind of bunch of fingerings, and then I just kind of slide over to it, you know. So I kind of think for some reason, I think it's because that's the first, if you look at the cycle of fifths, the first key that has G in it is C. And then if you were at F, it has G minor. So you got, that's the end of the line. So I tend to think there, or I just tend to hear there. And then if I want the F sharp, I just kind of slide it over there. And if I want the other note, I think of that as an alteration almost. So that's where it gets into making your own perception of, how you want to navigate these three keys. And that's totally up to you. Like, that's your journey. And, because you could think, well, I'm going to start with all the available colors. And I think this is just a small little corner of the universe, but everybody can map it their own way. Like you could even think of all possible available notes, and then you're just dancing around those. And I like to do that too. But if I was just playing some straight, I would probably be thinking off of this key of C, playing out of the key of C, and then just thinking of changing a note when I want to change it. And to me that seems really easy, but I'll leave it at that, and you can kind of just absorb that, and we'll go from there. Or I'll give you a quick glimpse ahead. Now, say you're looking at Locrian here, playing off the third. You can alter a note. So say instead of having a C natural, you can raise that to C sharp. And that creates a melodic minor scale. And then you can still have the dominant 7 and the sharp 4. So that would give you like a G7 sharp 4 or sharp 11, which is a really nice sound. And it's got a woo. And that's, I love that. And the thing is, that's considered an altered scale, which means it doesn't naturally occur in any of the major keys on the cycle of fifths. And it's called a melodic minor scale. And it's like you're raising this note, and it causes it to want to resolve around the D. So if you played that group of notes off of the D, you get that sound. It's a really classical sound, but it's used in tons of jazz. So we'll talk a little more about altering things as we go along, because there's other alterations you can make, and a lot of the most basic alterations are kind of like the ones that I just did there. And sometimes you can play normally just toss in that sharp 4 as a stinger. It's like a little wow. And it can be proggy, it can be jazzy, it can just be whatever. It can be whatever you want. It's the material's pretty flexible. And whoa, 15 minutes. Okay.